Widowed millionaire gets home early, and he can't believe what the waitress was doing with his triplets. The glass doors slid open earlier than usual. It was 6:12 p.m. when Jonathan Harrison, the widowed millionaire everyone called cold, crossed the living room of the mansion with his tie still in his pocket and his breath caught by exhaustion. He stopped mid-step from the other side, in the inner garden where almost nothing had bloomed since Heather Harrison's death. He heard laughter, 3 voices, in chorus, clear, round, scandalously alive. Ryan Harrison, Ethan Harrison, and Alex Harrison, the 8-year-old triplets who hadn't spoken since the funeral, were rolling on the grass, racing bottle caps like they were toy cars, the one marking the finish line. Laughing along with them was a young woman in a red uniform and worn sneakers, Emily Walker, the waitress from the café down the block. She held up a blue ribbon like a final flag, made trumpet sounds with her hands, and in a goofy bow, declared them champions. The sound cut through Jonathan like a bolt of hope and guilt. Emily only knew the house through the service entrance. Sometimes she delivered packages, other times she served discreetly at small gatherings. 24 years old, fatherless, raised by an aunt who sewed for a living, she'd learned early to smile without making noise. She had quick hands and a recipe notebook inherited from her grandmother. With notes and pencil and coffee stains, she lived off odd jobs and crumpled bus tickets, kept a silver pendant with the word courage hidden in her purse. And when sadness pressed hard, she talked to old photos like someone trying to read the future by looking at the past. It was the gardener who pulled her inside that afternoon. "Just for a minute," he asked quietly. "They haven't laughed in months. The lady of the house isn't here." The lady was Margaret Lane, impeccable housekeeper, consultant to the family foundation, an overseer of everything that touched the boys' routine. Margaret had arrived the day Heather was still in the hospital, offering solutions, remedies, silence. Her low voice filled rooms like expensive perfume. Her presence was a promise of order, and to Emily, something that sounded like a locked door. The approach was made through small gestures. Emily got down on the ground, leveled her gaze, blew dust off the bottle caps like she was polishing metals, taught the 3 of them to count down by tapping her wristwatch, 3, 2, 1 with each race. A laugh, first shy, then open, until the ache in Jonathan's chest turned into a tear he didn't let fall. How? He wanted to ask, but he didn't have time. Margaret appeared on the balcony like a shadow that knows every shortcut. "What's going on here?" she asked without raising her voice. Within minutes, every detail became a violation. The flattened grass, it's damp. They could catch cold. The ribbon could strangle them. The bottle cap's sharp edges. The waitress, external staff without authorization. Jonathan, caught between gratitude and guilt, mumbled a "we'll talk later." Margaret smiled, satisfied to seem reasonable, and underneath, she squeezed Emily's arm with a minimal gesture that hurt more for the message. "Know your place." The injustices started like dust. Emily's visitor badge disappeared from the gate. Payment for a delivery went to the wrong account. A rumor in the neighborhood spoke of a gold-digging waitress who was getting close to the widower within days. They turned to stone. An expensive bracelet appeared in Emily's backpack when she was leaving the kitchen, and Margaret, all too sincere, lamented the disappointment out loud. Jonathan stayed silent. The fear of losing his son's fragile progress made him a hostage to his own hesitation, but Emily, who knew how to read silences, started putting pieces together. She noticed the children yawned at the same time every afternoon, with a strange weight in their eyes. In the bathroom trash, she found packages of a prescription sedative syrup. The pharmacy label showed it had been picked up in Margaret's name. In a rarely used room, she found a trunk with Heather's papers, among them a handwritten prescription card to calm the boys' chamomile tea with honey. No sedatives without guidance. On a napkin saved like a relic. A note, "If something happens to me, trust the laughter," and in the fridge, a drawing made by Alex, a red stamp of an X over a cup with purple drops, and next to it, a mug with a heart and 3 smiling faces. Emily understood. The boys weren't apathetic. They were being erased. "Where were you at 5 p.m.? she asked gently to the kitchen helper. "In the pantry, and at 4:30 with Mrs. Margaret giving the syrup." The helper corrected herself too late. Emily discreetly photographed the boxes in the trash, the drawing in the fridge, the pharmacy receipt. When she saw Margaret slip a bottle into her purse, she tried to talk to Jonathan, but Margaret spoke first. "The girl is threatening us with gossip to get money. I'll have to protect the family." The next morning, Emily was stopped at the gate, accused of theft, and the whole neighborhood found out. Public humiliation, private isolation. The lowest point came on a rainy afternoon. Jonathan, exhausted, signed a contract without reading it that gave Margaret full powers over the children's clinical routine. That same day, Ryan fainted from weakness in the hallway. The pediatrician, over the phone, asked for a medication history. Margaret responded with calm, technical names. Emily, standing outside, trembled. She remembered Heather's note and decided to act. With the gardener's help, she recovered a memory card from an old camera in the playroom, forgotten by Margaret. There, in grainy silence, appeared the shadow of the housekeeper counting drops into a cup while the boys drew. Then, an involuntary close-up of the label. The same sedative syrup with the photos, the drawing, the pharmacy receipt, and the video. Emily waited for Jonathan at the garage exit. There was no speech. She just held out her phone. The man who had seen his own sons laugh again took a deep breath and, for the first time since his grief, said a thank you that was also an apology. The next night, an independent lab collected samples. Traces of compatible sedatives were detected in the children. The irrefutable proof shattered the web. Justice came with the sound of doors opening and firm voices. Margaret was removed. Charged with improper administration of medication and embezzlement, audits revealed foundation funds being diverted to a company in her name. Gradually, the boys' silence gave way to short words. Ryan said water without fear. Ethan, seeing Emily arrive, whispered flag Alex, with his mouth still unsure, tried the impossible. More race, Jonathan cried without hiding it. The catharsis wasn't a spectacle, it was a repaired daily life. Emily returned not as an intruder, but as a presence in the kitchen. She rescued Heather's tea recipe, covered the notebook with transparent plastic, and taught the boys to mark mood stars. Blue for calm days, yellow for courage, green for laughter. Jonathan, less guarded, started turning off his phone on home afternoons. The romance between him and Emily didn't come with fireworks. It came with the soft sound of cups on saucers, whispered conversations in the hallway, with gratitude that, when it grows, feels like love. Emily Walker's apartment sat above a laundromat on Maple Street, where the hum of dryers became white noise by 10 p.m., and the smell of detergent seeped through the floorboards like a permanent guest. The place was small, one bedroom, a kitchenette with a 2-burner stove, and a bathroom where the shower head leaked no matter how many times she wrapped it with plumber's tape. But it was hers, sort of. The rent was always 3 days late, paid with tips folded into her apron and the occasional 20 from catering gigs she picked up through her aunt's connections. On the kitchen counter, between a chipped coffee mug and a stack of unpaid bills, sat the recipe notebook, leather-bound, edges worn soft from decades of use, pages yellowed and warped from steam and spills. Her grandmother's handwriting filled the margins, notes in pencil, corrections in pen, little stars next to the recipes that had worked. Honey cake for hard days, cinnamon tea when the heart feels heavy. Emily ran her fingers over the loops and curves of the cursive, tracing words like they were lifelines. She didn't remember much about her grandmother, just flashes. The sound of a wooden spoon against a mixing bowl, flour dusting the air like snow. A voice that sang old songs in Portuguese while kneading dough. Her grandmother had died when Emily was 6, the same year her father left and never came back. Her mother tried to hold things together for a while, working double shifts at a factory, but the weight crushed her slowly by the time Emily turned 12. Her mother was gone, too. Not dead, just gone, checked out. Living in some assisted facility 2 towns over, staring at walls and forgetting her daughter's name. Emily's aunt, Rosa, took her in without complaint, a seamstress who turned their living room into a workshop, surrounded by bolts of fabric and the constant whir of a sewing machine. Rosa taught her to be invisible when needed, to smile at customers even when they were rude, to save every penny because tomorrow wasn't promised. "You're stronger than you think, Mia," Rosa would say, pinning hymns with her mouth full of needles. But the world doesn't care about strong, it cares about useful. So be both, Emily learned. She worked her first job at 14 washing dishes at a diner, then waiting tables, then picking up shifts anywhere that would take her. She saved enough for community college, but dropped out after a semester when Rosa got sick and the medical bills piled up. The dreams got smaller after that. More practical, a steady job, a place with heat that worked, maybe, someday. Her own café, where she could use her grandmother's recipes, the pendant around her neck's turling silver, engraved with the word courage, had been her father's last gift before he disappeared. She wore it every day, tucked under her shirt where no one could see. On nights when loneliness felt like drowning, she'd pull out the shoebox from under her bed. Inside, old photographs, her grandmother smiling in a garden, her mother, young and bright-eyed, holding baby Emily, her father, looking at the camera like he still believed in things. She'd spread the photos on the Tron and talk to them. "What would you do?" she'd ask her grandmother's picture. "Would you think I'm crazy for caring about kids I barely know?" The photos never answered. But somehow, the act of asking made her feel less alone. Emily first encountered the Harrison mansion 6 months ago. She'd been filling in for a delivery driver who called in sick, dropping off a catering order for some foundation event. The gate alone was intimidating. Wrought iron security cameras, an intercom where she had to state her business twice. A stern woman in a gray suit met her at the service entrance, checked the order with the precision of someone inspecting evidence, and sent her away without a word of thanks. But Emily saw the house, saw the garden through the windows, overgrown in some places, barren in others, saw a man in an expensive suit standing alone on a balcony, staring at nothing, and she saw, just for a second, 3 small faces pressed against an upstairs window. Watching her leave after that, she came back a few more times, different deliveries, different excuses. The café where she worked was only 4 blocks away, and the Harrisons ordered from there occasionally fancy espresso, pastries that cost more than her daily wage. She'd volunteered to deliver, just to see if those kids were still at the window. They usually were, silent, watching. The staff at the mansion barely noticed her. She was just another face in a red uniform, someone who came and went through the service door. But the gardener noticed. Miguel, an older man with kind eyes and calloused hands, started leaving the side gate unlocked when he saw her coming. "They need someone who smiles," he told her once, nodding toward the house. "That woman in there. She doesn't smile, not really." Emily knew he meant Margaret. She'd seen the housekeeper a few times, always composed, always in control, moving through the mansion like she owned it. There was something about her that made Emily's skin crawl, though she couldn't explain why. Maybe it was the way Margaret looked at people, assessing, calculating, like she was deciding whether they were useful or disposable. "I shouldn't get involved," Emily told Miguel one afternoon, handing him a coffee she'd brought. "It's not my place, maybe," Miguel said, sipping slowly. "But those boys, they used to laugh before their mama died. Now they just sit. And that lady, she says it's grief. But grief doesn't make kids sleep through the afternoon every single day." The words stuck with Emily. She started paying closer attention during her deliveries. Noticed the boys' glassy eyes when she glimpsed them. Noticed how they moved slowly, like they were underwater. Noticed the bottles in the trash, prescription labels, sedatives, always picked up by Margaret Lane. It was Miguel who asked her to step into the garden that day. "Just for a minute," he pleaded, his voice low and urgent. "Mrs. Margaret is at a meeting downtown. Mr. Harrison is still at work. The boys are alone with the nanny, but she's on the phone. They're just sitting there, like ghosts." Emily hesitated. She had a shift starting in 30 minutes. She had bills to pay. A life that didn't include playing savior to rich people's kids. But then she thought about her own childhood, about sitting alone, waiting for someone to notice she existed, about the weight of silence. "Just for a minute," she agreed. She found them in the inner garden. 3 identical boys sitting on a stone bench like dolls arranged by someone who didn't know how children actually sat. They didn't look up when she approached, didn't react when she knelt down in front of them. "Hey," she said softly. "Nothing." She pulled a bottle cap from her pocket, saved from her lunch earlier, and set it on the ground. Then another, then a third. "You know what these are?" she asked, her voice gentle. "Race cars, fastest ones in the world." Ryan, the one in the middle, blinked, a small movement. But it was something. Emily drew a line in the dirt with her finger. "This is the finish line. Whoever gets there first wins." She pulled the blue ribbon from her hair, the one she used to tie back her ponytail, and held it up. "And the winner gets this official champion ribbon." Ethan's eyes followed the ribbon. Alex's fingers twitched. 3, 2, 1. Emily tapped an imaginary watch on her wrist. "Go." She flicked the first bottle cap. It skittered across the grass, wobbly and slow. Ryan's hand moved, hesitant. Ansaran pushed his cap forward, then Ethan, then Alex, and then, like a dam breaking, they were all pushing their caps, leaning forward, and someone Emily wasn't sure. Hugh laughed. It was the smallest sound, a breath of a giggle, but it was real. Emily's chest tightened with something she couldn't name. She made trumpet sounds with her mouth, narrated their race like a sports announcer. declared them all champions, and bowed dramatically as she handed them the ribbon, and they laughed, all three, together. That's when she heard the footsteps behind her. Margaret Lane didn't raise her voice. She never had to. Her words came out measured, each syllable weighted with authority that made Emily's spine straighten involuntarily. "What's going on here?" Emily stood slowly, brushing grass from her knees. The boys had gone quiet again. Their brief spark of joy snuffed out like a candle. They sat frozen, eyes down, hands folded back to being the perfect silent statues they'd been trained to be. Emily started. "The grass is damp," Margaret interrupted smoothly, stepping down from the balcony with the measured grace of someone who knew every inch of this property. "They could catch cold. And that ribbon," she gestured to the blue strip of fabric now clutched in Ryan's small fist. "It's a strangulation hazard. Surely you're aware of basic child safety protocols." Emily opened her mouth to respond, but Margaret was already moving, plucking the bottle caps from the ground with 2 fingers like they were contaminated. Glass fragments, sharp edges. One wrong move and we're dealing with lacerations. She dropped them into her palm with a soft clink. "I'm surprised someone in your position would be so careless." The words hit like small cuts, precise, calculated to wound without leaving visible marks. Emily felt heat rise to her cheeks. They were just playing. "They seemed happy," Margaret repeated, as if testing the word's validity. She knelt beside Alex, smoothing his hair with a gesture that looked tender but felt possessive. "Children don't know what's good for them. That's why they have adults to make responsible decisions." Her eyes lifted to Emily. "Adults who are actually authorized to be here." The implication landed heavy. Emily wasn't authorized. She was the help, the delivery girl, someone who should know better than to overstep invisible boundaries drawn by people with money and power. "Margaret," Jonathan's voice cut through the tension. He stood by the glass doors, tie still dangling from his pocket, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. Emily couldn't read his expression. Gratitude, guilt, irritation. "Mr. Harrison." Margaret rose smoothly. "I apologize for this disruption. I'd stepped out for just a moment to handle the foundation paperwork. And it seems our external staff took some liberties with the children's care." External staff. The phrase stung more than it should have. Jonathan's gaze moved from Margaret to Emily to his sons, still silent. Still frozen for a moment, Emily thought she saw something crack in his expression. Flicker of the man who'd stood watching his children laugh, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. "We'll talk later," he said quietly, not to Emily, to Margaret. A dismissal wrapped in professional courtesy. Margaret's smile was small, satisfied, of course. "I'll see the young lady out." She placed a hand on Emily's elbow, gentle on the surface, but her fingers dug in just enough to hurt. This way, Emily let herself be guided to the service entrance. Her mind racing, she wanted to turn back, to tell Jonathan what she'd seen. 3 boys who'd forgotten how to laugh, who'd remembered for just 5 minutes. But Margaret's grip was firm. Her presence, a wall Emily didn't know how to breach. At the gate, Margaret finally released her. "You seem like a sweet girl," she said, her voice dropping to something almost, "But you need to understand your place. These children have been through trauma. They require structure, medical supervision, and consistency. Not..." She gestured vaguely at Emily's worn sneakers, her coffee-stained uniform. "Good intentions from strangers who don't understand the complexities of their situation." Emily's throat tightened. "I was just trying to help. I'm sure you were." Margaret's smile didn't reach her eyes. "But help in this context looks like knowing when to step back. Do you understand? It wasn't really a question." Emily nodded, hating herself for it. "Good. Have a nice evening." The gate closed with a soft click that sounded like a lock turning. The first sign came 3 days later. Emily showed up for her usual delivery, a lunch order for the Harrison household, and the security guard at the gate frowned at his tablet. "Says here you're not cleared for entry." "What?" "I've been delivering here for months," he shrugged. "Your visitor badge was deactivated. No clearance, no entry. You'll have to leave the order with me." Emily's hands shook as she handed over the bag. She tried calling the café, thinking maybe it was a system error, but her manager just sighed. Harrison's account requested a different delivery person. Something about maintaining consistency with their preferred staff. "Sorry, the next week her paycheck was short, not by much, just enough to notice." The manager checked the records, confused. "It shows here that your Tuesday catering gig was paid, but the transfer went to the wrong account somehow. Let me look into it." The money never showed up. Then came the whispers. Emily first heard them at the corner store where she bought her morning coffee. 2 women from the neighborhood, leaning close, voices low, but not low enough. "Did you hear about that waitress? The one who works at the cafe. The young one. What about her? Apparently she's been hanging around the Harrison place. You know, the widower with all that money. People are saying she's trying to get close to him. Gold digger type." Emily froze mid-reach for the sugar packets. The women didn't even notice her standing 3 feet away, really. She seemed so quiet, though. That's how they operate. All sweet and innocent until they get their hooks in. I heard she even tried to get alone time with the kids. Creepy, if you ask me. Emily left without her coffee. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. The rumors spread like mold, invisible at first. Then suddenly, everywhere. Her aunt heard it from a client, Miguel, the gardener. Pulled her aside during a rare encounter on the street to warn her that people were talking. Even her manager at the cafe started giving her odd looks, asking pointed questions about whether she'd gotten too comfortable with certain customers. "I didn't do anything wrong," Emily insisted, but her voice sounded weak even to her own ears. "I'm not saying you did," her manager replied carefully. "But perception matters, you know. Maybe keep some distance from that account." What account? She wasn't even allowed near the Harrison house anymore. The final blow came on a Thursday afternoon. Emily had picked up a catering shift for a small event, a baby shower in the same neighborhood as the Harrisons. Just 2 blocks away, she was carrying a tray of appetizers from the car when she felt something hard and angular. Pressing against her hip inside her bag, she set down the tray and opened her backpack. Nestled between her wallet and her grandmother's recipe book was a bracelet, gold, delicate, with small diamonds that caught the sunlight. Expensive, very expensive, and definitely not hers. Emily's blood went cold. "Is there a problem?" The host of the party appeared beside her, smiling politely. No, Emily's mind raced. How did this get here, when she'd had her bag with her all morning? Except when she'd left it in the cafe's back room while she loaded supplies. The same back room where delivery orders for the Harrison house were sometimes staged, where staff came and went freely. "Actually," Emily said slowly, pulling out the bracelet, "I think someone might have accidentally put this in my bag." "It's not mine." The host's smile faded. She took the bracelet, examined it, then looked at Emily with an expression that shifted from polite to suspicious. This is quite valuable. How did it end up in your possession?" "I don't know. I just found it." "I think maybe you should go," the woman said quietly. "I'll take care of the rest of the setup myself." Emily felt the dismissal like a slap. She gathered her things and left, the weight of misunderstanding pressing down on her shoulders. She didn't see Margaret Lane watching from a car parked across the street, phone in hand, a small smile playing at her lips. By evening, Emily's phone buzzed with a text from her manager. "Need to talk. Come in tomorrow morning before your shift." She knew what that meant. She was being let go. The rumors, the missing money, the bracelet. It didn't matter that none of it was her fault. Perception mattered, and right now, everyone perceived her as exactly what Margaret wanted them to see, a desperate girl trying to climb a ladder she had no business climbing. Emily sat on her apartment floor that night, surrounded by old photographs, and for the first time in years, she cried. Not quiet tears, but the kind that shook her whole body. The kind that came from realizing that being right didn't matter if no one believed you. The pendant around her neck felt heavy. Courage, it said. But what good was courage against doors that had already closed? Emily lost her job at the cafe on a Friday morning. Her manager, a tired woman named Carol, who'd always been fair, couldn't even look her in the eye. "It's not personal." The owner got complaints. "Says it's bad for business to keep staff who've got reputational issues. Reputational issues," Emily repeated flatly. "You mean rumors? Look, I don't know what happened with that Harrison situation, and honestly, I don't want to know. But people talk, and when people talk, customers get uncomfortable. I'm sorry. I really am." Emily cleaned out her locker in silence. An extra apron, a pair of non-slip shoes, the tips jar she'd been saving for rent, $43 and some change. She walked out into the gray October morning and realized she had nowhere to be. No shift to work, no deliveries to make. Just empty hours stretching ahead and bills that wouldn't pay themselves. She should have gone home. Should have started looking for another job, called her aunt, figured out a plan instead. She found herself walking toward the Harrison mansion. Not close enough to be seen, just close enough to watch from across the street. Hidden by the oak trees that lined the sidewalk, the gate opened at 3:15. A black sedan pulled out, Margaret in the driver's seat, heading toward downtown. Emily checked her phone. Friday afternoon, foundation meetings probably. She remembered Miguel mentioning that Margaret handled charity events on Fridays. Emily waited 10 more minutes, then crossed the street. The side gate, Miguel's gate, was unlocked, just barely. She slipped through, heart hammering, and moved along the hedge line toward the back of the property. This was stupid, reckless if anyone caught her. She'd be arrested for trespassing, but something Miguel had said kept echoing in her head. Grief doesn't make kids sleep through the afternoon every single day. She needed to understand. Needed to see with her own eyes what was really happening to those boys. The kitchen entrance was unlocked, staff coming and going, security lax on the service side. Emily ducked inside. Moving quickly through the hallway she'd walked dozens of times during deliveries. Voices drifted from somewhere upstairs, a television playing cartoons. The hum of a vacuum cleaner. The bathroom off the main hallway was empty. Emily stepped inside, closing the door softly behind her. The trash can sat in the corner, liner half full. She knelt down, pulse racing, and carefully sorted through crumpled tissues and empty soap bottles. There, near the bottom, a small cardboard box, pharmacy label still attached. Pediatric sedative syrup, prescription, Margaret Lane, patient, Harrison, Ryan, Ethan, Alex, dosage, 5 milliliters as needed for anxiety. Emily's hand shook as she pulled out her phone and photographed the box, the label, the instructions. As needed for anxiety, but who decided when it was needed? And how often was Margaret deciding? She replaced everything carefully, making sure the trash looked undisturbed, and slipped back into the hallway. Her mind raced. Sedatives. For 8-year-olds. Maybe it was legitimate, prescribed by a real doctor for real symptoms. But maybe the study was 2 doors down. Emily had seen it before. During a holiday party she'd helped cater. Dark wood paneling, built-in bookshelves, a massive desk cluttered with papers. The door was ajar. She pushed it open slowly, wincing at every creak. A trunk sat in the corner, half hidden behind a leather armchair. It looked old, out of place among the modern furniture. Emily knelt beside it, fingers finding the latch. Not locked. She lifted the lid. Papers, photographs, a woman's handwriting on everything. Lupin. Elegant, unmistakably personal. Heather's things. Emily felt like she was intruding on sacred ground. But she couldn't stop. She sorted carefully through the stack. A journal, medical records, and then a small card, cream-colored, with a doctor's letterhead, patient care notes, Harrison children for managing evening routine. Chamomile tea with honey, warm bath, quiet reading time, no sedatives without direct physician consultation. Boys respond well to gentle structure and emotional support. The note was dated 6 months before Heather died. The handwriting in the margin, Heather said simply, "They need love, not medicine." Emily photographed the card. Then she found another note, this one handwritten on a napkin, edges worn soft like it had been folded and unfolded many times. "If something happens to me, trust the laughter. They'll try to make everything quiet and controlled, but that's not healing, that's forgetting. Don't let them forget how to laugh." Emily's throat tightened. She took a picture of the napkin, hands trembling, and carefully returned everything to the trunk. As she stood, she noticed something else, a framed photo on the desk she hadn't seen before. Heather and Jonathan, young and smiling, with 3 tiny babies wrapped in blue blankets. The joy in their faces was almost painful to look at. She left the study and moved toward the kitchen, intending to slip out the way she came. But then she saw it on the refrigerator, held up by a magnet shaped like a butterfly or child's drawing. Alex's name was scrawled in the corner in wobbly letters. The picture showed 3 stick figures with sad faces. Above them, a cup with purple liquid and a big red X drawn over it. Below, another image. A teacup with a heart, and the same 3 stick figures smiling. Emily stared at the drawing, something cold settling in her stomach. The boys knew. They understood that something about that purple liquid, the syrup, was wrong, and they were trying to tell someone. The only way they could, she photographed the drawing. Her hands steadier now. Anger was replacing fear. These children were being silenced. Systematically, deliberately, the sound of footsteps made her freeze. Someone was coming down the back stairs. Emily shoved her phone in her pocket and grabbed a dish towel from the counter, pretending to dry a glass. The kitchen helper, a young woman named Maria, appeared in the doorway and stopped short. "Oh, I didn't know anyone was here," Emily forced a smile. "Sorry, Margaret asked me to drop something off." The lie came icily, too icily. Maria relaxed slightly. "She's at a meeting, I think, right?" "Yeah, that's why she asked me to come now." Emily set down the glass. "Hey, can I ask you something? The boys, do they always nap in the afternoon?" Maria's expression shifted, something uncomfortable crossing her face. Usually, yeah, Mrs. Margaret says it's good for them. Keeps them calm. How long have they been doing that? The afternoon naps, since I started, maybe 4 months ago. Maria moved to the sink, not quite meeting Emily's eyes. Why, just curious. They seemed really tired last time I saw them, Mrs. Margaret gives them something to help them rest. A syrup, says it's doctor approved. Maria's voice dropped slightly. Between you and me, I think it's a lot of syrup, every day, at 4:30. Like clockwork, Emily's heart pounded. You help give it to them, sometimes, if she asks. Maria looked up. Defensive now. It's prescribed. It's not like we're doing anything wrong, no. Of course not, Emily kept her voice light. I'm sure it's fine. I should go. She left before Maria could ask more questions, slipping out through the service entrance and back through the side gate. Once she was across the street, hidden by the oak trees again. She pulled out her phone and reviewed the photos, the prescription box, the care notes from Heather's doctor. The napkin with Heather's message, the drawing, it wasn't enough, not yet. Not to convince someone like Jonathan, who was already drowning in grief and guilt. She needed something irrefutable, something that couldn't be explained away as a misunderstanding or a coincidence. Emily thought about Miguel. About the security cameras he'd mentioned, once mostly for show, he'd said, but a few still worked, including the one in the playroom. Installed years ago, when the boys were toddlers and Heather wanted to check on them remotely. She pulled up Miguel's number and typed out a text. Is the playroom camera still active? The response came 2 minutes later. Yes, but Margaret doesn't know. Battery backup. Memory card stored in the camera. Why? Emily stared at her phone, weighing the risk, breaking and entering. Theft of private recordings. She could go to jail for this. But 3 little boys were being drugged into silence every single day. She typed back, I need to see that footage. Miguel met her at midnight behind the property fence, where the streetlights didn't quite reach and the security cameras had blind spots. He looked older in the shadows, worry lines deep around his eyes. This is crazy, he whispered, handing her a small key. If she catches us, she won't. Emily tried to sound more confident than she felt. You said she's gone until tomorrow afternoon, right? The foundation gala is in the city. She never misses it, but still. Miguel glanced back at the dark mansion. Mr. Harrison is home, and the night staff. I'll be quick. In and out 15 minutes, tops. Miguel shook his head but didn't argue further. Playroom is 3rd floor. East wing. Cameras mounted in the corner by the bookshelf. Looks like a teddy bear. The memory card slot is in the back. Take the whole thing if you have to, but for God's sake, don't get caught. Emily squeezed his hand. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Just be careful. She waited until he disappeared around the corner before using the key on the service entrance. The lock turned with a soft click that sounded deafening in the quiet. Inside, the mansion breathed with the settling sounds of old, wealth-creaking floorboards. The hum of expensive appliances, the distant tick of a grandfather clock. Emily kept her phone's flashlight aimed low as she moved through the kitchen. She'd memorized the layout from her previous visit's hallway to the main staircase. Up 2 flights, left at the landing, the playroom was at the end of the corridor. Past what looked like guest bedrooms and a library, each step felt like walking through quicksand. Her heart hammered so loud she was sure someone would hear it on the 2nd floor landing. She froze, voices drifting from somewhere below. A television maybe, or Jonathan on a phone call, she couldn't tell. Keep moving. 3rd floor, east wing, the playroom door was unlocked. Emily slipped inside and closed it behind her, leaning against the wood to catch her breath. The room was exactly what she'd expected. Shelves full of expensive toys that looked barely touched. A train set gathering dust, stuffed animals arranged in perfect rows. A room designed by someone who thought childhood could be organized like a spreadsheet. The camera was exactly where Miguel said it would be, a teddy bear with a tiny lens embedded in one eye. Sitting on the corner shelf with a perfect view of the entire room, Emily lifted it carefully, turning it over. The back panel popped off easily, revealing a small SD card nestled in its slot. Her hands shook as she pulled it out. This was it. Evidence. Proof. Whatever was on this card could change everything, or it could be nothing. Just innocent footage of children playing. But the drawer in the corner caught her eye before she could leave. It was slightly open, papers visible inside. Emily hesitated. She'd already crossed so many lines tonight. What was one more? And pulled it open fully. Drawings. Dozens of them. The boys' artwork, dated and organized chronologically. Emily flipped through quickly, watching the progression 6 months ago. The drawings were colorful, chaotic dinosaurs and spaceships and stick figure families. Then they changed. The colors faded. The images became simpler, sadder, and then she found it. The drawing that made her blood run cold. 3 boys, Ryan, Ethan, Alex, written carefully at the top, standing in a row. Above them, a woman with dark hair and a stern face holding a cup. Purple drops falling into the cup, and over the entire image, a massive red X, drawn so hard the crayon had torn through the paper in places. On the back, in Alex's uncertain handwriting, "The sleepy drink makes us forget, Mama. We don't want to forget." Emily's eyes burned. She photographed the drawing front and back, then kept searching. More pictures, all telling the same story in the silent language of children who'd lost their voice. A drawing of Margaret with sharp teeth like a monster. A picture of their mother as an angel with the words "We miss you" written over and over. And tucked in the very back, folded small, another drawing. This one showed a woman with a ponytail. Emily realized with a jolt it was supposed to be her holding a blue ribbon. The 3 boys were smiling, really smiling, their mouths drawn as huge arcs of happiness. At the bottom, "The race car lady is nice. She doesn't give us the purple cup." Emily took pictures of everything, her hands steadier now despite the tears blurring her vision. These children were screaming for help in the only way they knew how. And no one had been listening. No one except maybe Miguel, who'd noticed but didn't have the power to do anything about it. A sound from the hallway made her freeze. Footsteps, slow, measured, coming closer. Emily shoved the drawings back in the drawer and looked around frantically. There was nowhere to hide, no closet, no furniture large enough. The footsteps stopped outside the door. The handle turned. Emily did the only thing she could think of. She stepped behind the door as it swung open, pressing herself flat against the wall, holding her breath. Jonathan Harrison entered the playroom. A glass of whiskey in one hand. He didn't turn on the light, just stood in the doorway for a long moment. Silhouetted by the hallway glow, Emily could see his profile, exhausted, lost, a man who looked like he was barely holding himself together. He walked to the center of the room and sat down on the small rug where his sons probably played, set his glass aside, put his head in his hands, and broke. The sound of his crying was quiet, contained, like he'd had a lot of practice keeping grief silent. Emily's throat tightened. She should feel afraid. She was trespassing, stealing, about to be caught. But all she felt was overwhelming sadness for this man who'd lost his wife and was slowly losing his children. Without even realizing it, "I don't know what to do," Jonathan whispered to the empty room. "I don't know how to help them. Everything I try just makes it worse. Maybe Margaret's right. Maybe they just need time and structure." And his voice broke. "God, Heather, I'm so sorry. I'm failing them. I'm failing you." Emily's hand tightened on the SD card in her pocket. She wanted to step out, to show him what she'd found, to tell him that he wasn't failing, he was being lied to. But the timing was wrong. He wasn't ready to hear it. Not like this. Not from someone he barely knew. Caught breaking into his house in the middle of the night. Jonathan sat there for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Finally he stood, picked up his glass, and walked back toward the door. Emily pressed harder against the wall, making herself as small as possible. He paused in the doorway, looking back at the room. "I miss you," he said softly. Emily wasn't sure if he was talking to his wife or his sons or both. Then he was gone, footsteps fading down the hallway. Emily waited, counting to 100, before she moved. Her legs felt like jelly. She slipped out of the playroom, down the stairs, through the kitchen, and out the service entrance. Didn't breathe properly until she was 3 blocks away. Sitting on a bus bench under a flickering streetlight, she pulled out her phone and looked at the photos she'd taken, the drawings, the prescription boxes from earlier. Heather's notes, the SD card tucked safely in her jacket pocket, hopefully containing the final piece of evidence she needed. It still might not be enough. Margaret was smart, careful, protected by money and social standing. Emily was nobody, a fired waitress with a history of reputational issues. Who would believe her? But then she thought about Alex's drawing. The race car lady is nice. And she thought about Jonathan, sitting alone in the dark, begging his dead wife for forgiveness. And she knew she had to try, even if it destroyed her, even if no one believed her. Because 3 little boys were being erased, one purple drop at a time, and someone had to be their voice. Emily pulled out her phone and texted Miguel. "Got it. Need to get this footage reviewed. Do you know anyone who can help?" The response came quickly. "My nephew works at an electronics store. He can recover and copy data from SD cards. Discreet. Tomorrow morning, Emily confirmed. She sat on that bench until sunrise, holding the memory card like it was made of glass. Planning her next move, the evidence was mounting. She just needed one more piece. Something Margaret couldn't explain away. Something irrefutable. And she had a feeling that whatever was on this SD card was exactly that. Miguel's nephew, Carlos, ran a small electronics repair shop wedged between a dollar store and a nail salon on the east side of town. The kind of place that fixed cracked phone screens and recovered data from water-damaged laptops. No questions asked, he took the SD card from Emily with the careful reverence of someone who understood that whatever was on it mattered. "Give me an hour," he said, plugging it into a specialized reader. "If there's anything salvageable, I'll find it." Emily spent that hour pacing the sidewalk outside, drinking bad coffee from a gas station and watching the morning commuters rush past. Normal people with normal problems, jobs to get to, families waiting at home. She wondered what that felt like, normalcy. It had been so long since her life felt anything close to stable. When Carlos finally called her back inside, his expression was grim. "You need to see this." The footage played on his computer screen, grainy, dated with timestamps, but clear enough. 3 boys sitting at a craft table, coloring. Margaret entering the frame with a small cup in one hand and a medicine bottle in the other. She set the cup down, unscrewed the bottle, and counted drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Emily could see her lips moving, probably talking to the boys in that calm, controlled voice she always used. Then the camera angle shifted slightly. And for just a moment, the bottle's label was visible. The same sedative Emily had found in the trash, the same prescription. Margaret handed the cup to Ryan first. He hesitated, his small face scrunching up like he didn't want to drink it. She leaned in closer, her hand on his shoulder, gentle-looking but firm. He drank, then Ethan, then Alex, who pushed the cup away twice before finally giving in. Within 20 minutes, all 3 boys were drooping, yawning, moving slower. Margaret gathered their drawings, put away the crayons, and guided them to a corner where plush floor cushions were arranged. They lay down without protest. Eyes already half closed, the timestamp showed 4:47 p.m. By 5:15 p.m. they were completely asleep. "There's more," Carlos said quietly, fast-forwarding. "This same pattern, different days. I found footage going back 3 months before the card filled up. Every single day, same time, same routine." Emily's hands clenched into fists. "Can you make copies, multiple copies?" "Already done. 3 USB drives and cloud backup." Carlos handed her a small envelope. "I don't know what you're dealing with, but be careful, whoever this woman is. She's not going to take this lightly." Emily paid him with the last of her tip money and left with the evidence burning a hole in her pocket. She had everything now: the prescription bottles, Heather's notes, the children's drawings, and this video proof that Margaret was systematically sedating 3 8-year-old boys every single day. But she needed Jonathan to see it, and getting to Jonathan meant getting past Margaret. The opportunity came sooner than expected. In the worst possible way, Emily was at her aunt's apartment helping with alterations. When her phone buzzed with a text from Miguel, "Emergency. Ryan collapsed. Ambulance just left. Mr. Harrison is terrified." Margaret is spinning everything. Emily's blood went cold. She grabbed her jacket. "I have to go, Mia." "Wait," her aunt started, but Emily was already out the door. She got to the hospital in 15 minutes. Parking illegally and running through the ER entrance, the waiting room was sterile and bright, smelling of disinfectant and fear. She spotted Jonathan immediately, sitting in a corner chair. Elbows on his knees, head in his hands, no Margaret in sight. Emily approached slowly. "Mr. Harrison." He looked up, and for a second, didn't seem to recognize her. Then his eyes focused. "You're the waitress from the café, Emily." Emily Walker. She sat down next to him without asking permission. "What happened?" Ryan fainted, just collapsed in the hallway. "The doctor's running tests, but they're asking about medications, and I don't." He ran a hand through his hair, disheveled and desperate. "I signed papers. Margaret said they were routine, medical authorizations, so she could handle the boy's care while I was at work. I didn't read them carefully, I just trusted." "Where is she now?" "Talking to the doctors, giving them the medication history." Jonathan's voice cracked. "I don't even know what my own sons are taking. What kind of father does that make me?" Emily's hand went to her pocket, feeling the outline of the USB drive. This was it, the moment she could show him right now. Lay out all the evidence. Blow Margaret's carefully constructed world apart. But the doctor appeared before she could speak, a tired-looking woman in scrubs with a clipboard. "Mr. Harrison, we have some preliminary results." Jonathan stood immediately. Is he okay? He's stable, dehydrated, low blood sugar, and showing signs of... The doctor glanced at her notes. We found traces of diphenhydramine in his system. It's an antihistamine, commonly used as a sedative. The levels aren't dangerous, but they're higher than we'd expect for a child his age, especially on a regular basis. Sedative. Jonathan's face went pale. Why would he be taking a sedative? That's what we need to understand. Your household manager provided a medication list, but I'd like to verify it with you directly, according to her. The boys have been on a prescribed sedative syrup for anxiety management since their mother passed. Is that correct? She said the doctor recommended it for sleep regulation. The doctor's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. Mr. Harrison, which doctor prescribed this medication? We'll need to contact them to confirm the dosage and frequency. I don't. Margaret handles all the medical appointments. I see. The doctor made a note. I'm going to recommend that we keep Ryan overnight for observation and run a full-talk screen. I'd also like to have his brothers examined if they're on the same medication regimen. We need to ensure there are no adverse effects. Margaret chose that moment to return, appearing at Jonathan's elbow like a shadow materializing. Doctor, I have all the prescription information right here. Our pediatrician, Dr. Westbrook, approved everything. I can have his office send over the records immediately. Please do. The doctor's tone was professional but cool in the meantime. I'd like to speak with Mr. Harrison privately about his son's care plan going forward. Something flickered in Margaret's eyes. Concern. Fear. It vanished so quickly, Emily almost thought she'd imagined it. Of course, I'll make those calls right away. She touched Jonathan's arm. Don't worry, everything is properly documented. As Margaret walked away, Emily made her decision. She turned to Jonathan and lowered her voice. I need to talk to you. Privately, it's about the boys. He looked at her. Really looked at her for the first time. What do you know about my sons? More than you think. Please, just give me 5 minutes. The doctor cleared her throat. Mr. Harrison, we should discuss. Can I have a moment? Jonathan asked, not taking his eyes off Emily. Just a few minutes. The doctor hesitated, then nodded. I'll be at the nurse's station when you're ready. Jonathan led Emily to a quiet corner of the waiting room, away from prying eyes and ears. Talk. Emily pulled out the USB drive. Everything you need to know is on here. Video footage from your own security camera. Photos of prescription bottles, your wife's medical notes, drawings your son's made. All of it proves that Margaret has been systematically sedating your children for months, far beyond any legitimate medical need. Jonathan stared at the small device like it was a live grenade. That's a serious accusation, I know. And I have proof. I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to look at the evidence. Emily's voice shook, but she held his gaze. Your sons are being erased, Mr. Harrison, a little more every day. And Ryan collapsing, that's just the beginning if this continues. Why are you doing this? The question came out raw. Why do you care? Because someone has to. Emily thought about the drawing. The race car lady is nice. Because they asked for help the only way they could, and I'm the only one who heard them. Jonathan took the USB drive with trembling hands. If you're lying, I'm not. Watch the footage, read the notes. Look at what your sons drew, and then decide if I'm lying. Margaret's voice carried across the waiting room. Jonathan, the doctor's asking for you. Go, Emily whispered. But don't tell her about this, not yet. Not until you've seen what's on there. Jonathan nodded slowly and slipped the drive into his pocket. As he walked away, Emily sat back down in the waiting room chair, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. She'd done it. Handed over every piece of evidence she had. Now it was out of her hands. Either Jonathan would believe her, or he'd give that drive straight to Margaret and Emily would lose everything, her credibility. Her safety, maybe even her freedom if Margaret decided to press charges for trespassing and theft. But watching Jonathan disappear down the hallway, shoulders squared with new purpose, Emily felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. Emily didn't go home that night. She couldn't. The waiting room became her vigil. Coffee from the vending machine, her dinner, and every passing hour, a test of nerve. Jonathan had the evidence now. What he did with it would determine everything. Margaret left around midnight. Her departure smooth and unhurried. She stopped by Emily on her way out, her smile sharp as glass. Still here. How dedicated, though I'm not sure what you think you're accomplishing. Emily didn't respond, didn't trust herself to speak without her voice shaking. You should go home, dear. This is a family matter. You're not family. Margaret's heels clicked away, leaving the faint scent of expensive perfume in her wake. At 2 a.m., Jonathan emerged from the restricted area where Ryan was being monitored. His eyes were red-rimmed, face drawn. He spotted Emily, and crossed the waiting room in quick strides. "Come with me." He led her to a consultation room, small, windowless, with institutional furniture and fluorescent lights that buzzed faintly. Jonathan closed the door and leaned against it, like he needed the support. I watched it. All of it. His voice was hoarse. The footage, the drawings. I read Heather's notes. I saw. He couldn't finish. Just pulled out his phone and showed Emily the screen. The video was paused on Margaret's face, caught in profile as she counted drops into a cup. "How long have you known?" "A few weeks." "Since the day in the garden." Emily's hands twisted in her lap. "I tried to tell you, but she destroyed your reputation, got you fired, made everyone think you were the problem." Jonathan's jaw clenched. "While she was drugging my children? I'm sorry. I should have found a way to reach you sooner." "No." Jonathan sat down heavily in the chair across from her. "I should have seen it myself. I was so lost in grief, so desperate for someone to take control, that I handed her everything, the kids, the house, the foundation accounts." He looked up sharply. "Did you see the foundation paperwork in the footage metadata?" Emily shook her head. "What paperwork?" "I spent the last hour going through files on my phone, transactions I never authorized, transfers to consulting firms that don't exist. Margaret's been embezzling from Heather's foundation for months." He laughed bitterly. "She wasn't just stealing my children's lives, she was stealing their mother's legacy too. The magnitude of it settled between them. This wasn't just about sedatives and control, it was systematic, calculated theft on multiple levels. Margaret had positioned herself as indispensable and used that trust to strip the Harrison family of everything: money, autonomy, even joy." "What are you going to do?" Emily asked quietly. "First, get independent medical tests for all 3 boys. The doctor here is already concerned about Ryan's levels. If Ethan and Alex show the same thing." Jonathan stood, pacing the small room. "Then I'm calling the police, and a lawyer. And I'm getting Margaret Lane out of my house before sunrise. She won't go quietly. I don't care." The steel in his voice was new, maybe just rediscovered. "She hurt my children. She used my grief as a weapon. Whatever happens next, she's done." Emily felt tears prick her eyes. "They're good kids. They just need a chance to be kids again." Jonathan's expression softened. "You gave them that, even for 5 minutes in a garden. You gave them something I couldn't, the reminder that joy was still possible." He paused. "Thank you for not giving up on them when everyone else did." "I wasn't everyone else." Emily thought about her pendant, hidden under her shirt. "Courage. I was just someone who remembered what it felt like to be invisible." By dawn, everything moved fast. The hospital kept Ryan for observation and brought in Ethan and Alex for evaluation. Both showed elevated levels of sedatives in their systems, not immediately dangerous, but well beyond what any responsible physician would prescribe for anxiety management. Dr. Westbrook, the pediatrician Margaret claimed had authorized everything, was contacted. He arrived within the hour. Confused and angry. "I never prescribed sedatives for those boys. I specifically told Miss Elaine that behavioral therapy and routine were the appropriate interventions, not medication." "She said you approved it," Jonathan said, his voice dangerously quiet. "She lied. I have records of every appointment. The boys came in 3 times after their mother's death, standard checkups. I recommended grief counseling, consistent schedules, and patience. That's it, doctor." Westbrook pulled out his tablet, showing detailed notes. "If someone's been medicating those children, it wasn't under my supervision." That was enough for Jonathan. He called his attorney first, then the police. Margaret was arrested at the mansion at 7:30 a.m., still in her silk robe, coffee cup halfway to her lips. The expression on her face when officers read her rights was, according to Miguel, who watched from the garden, the first time he'd ever seen her lose composure. "This is absurd," she said, voice icy, even in handcuffs. "I have documentation for everything, Mr. Harrison signed off on all medical decisions under false pretenses," the detective said calmly. "You're being charged with child endangerment, fraud, and embezzlement. You have the right to remain silent for once." Margaret took that advice. The media picked up the story by noon. Prominent housekeeper arrested in child sedation case. Harrison Foundation funds allegedly embezzled. The details were vague, protected by the children's privacy, but enough leaked to create a firestorm. Emily watched the news from her aunt's couch, exhausted and numb. Her phone buzzed with messages from people who'd ignored her for weeks, suddenly wanting to know if the rumors were true. She deleted most without reading. One message stood out, from Jonathan. "The boys are asking for you. Would you come to the hospital?" She was there in 20 minutes. Ryan was awake, propped up on pillows, and looking more alert than Emily had ever seen him. Ethan and Alex sat on either side of his bed, all three watching cartoons on a tablet. When Emily entered, they looked up simultaneously. "Race car lady," Alex said softly. It was the first time she'd heard his voice. Emily's throat tightened. "Hey, champions. How are you feeling?" "Tired," Ryan admitted, but not the bad tired, just normal tired. "The doctor says we don't have to take the purple drink anymore," Ethan added. His voice was scratchy, like he wasn't used to using it much. "Dad said it was making us sick." "It was," Emily confirmed. "Sitting in the chair next to the bed, but you're going to get better now. All three of you." Alex climbed down from the bed and came over to her, studying her face seriously. Then he reached out and touched the pendant around her neck, the one that had slipped free from her collar. "Courage," he read slowly. "That's you?" Emily's vision blurred. "That's all of us. You were so brave. Showing people what was wrong. Your drawings helped save you." "We knew something was bad," Ryan said, "but we couldn't. The words wouldn't come out right. Everything felt fuzzy." "That's over now," Jonathan said from the doorway. Emily hadn't heard him enter. "No more fuzzy, no more purple drinks. Just us figuring out how to be a family again." He looked different, lighter somehow, despite the exhaustion. Like a weight had been lifted that he'd been carrying so long he'd forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight. "The preliminary audit came back," Jonathan said quietly. For Emily's ears only, Margaret embezzled over $200,000 from the foundation. Set up shell companies, false invoices, the whole thing. "My lawyer says it's one of the most elaborate schemes he's seen." Emily shook her head. She was so careful, so calculated, except for one thing. Jonathan glanced at his sons, who were absorbed in their cartoons again. She didn't account for someone caring enough to look past the perfect surface. Someone who saw three kids racing bottle caps and decided they mattered more than keeping their place. "They did matter," Emily said simply. "They do matter. I know that now." Jonathan hesitated. "When this settles, when things are calmer, I'd like to talk about you being part of their lives, officially, not as staff, as..." He struggled for the word. "A friend," Emily offered. "Yes, a friend." His smile was small but genuine. "They need that. Someone who sees them as kids, not patients or problems or responsibilities. Just kids." Alex appeared at Emily's side again, holding the blue ribbon, the same one from the garden, somehow retrieved and kept safe. "Will you race with us again when we go home?" Emily took the ribbon, her heart full enough to break. "Absolutely. Bottle caps, finish lines. The whole championship." "Good." Alex nodded seriously. "Because we've been practicing in our heads. We're going to be really fast. I'm counting on it," Emily said. And for the first time in months, maybe years, everything felt like it might actually be okay. The boys came home on a Tuesday afternoon, 3 days after Margaret's arrest. The mansion felt different, lighter somehow. Like someone had opened windows that had been sealed shut for too long. Miguel had been busy in their absence, clearing out Margaret's belongings and restoring small touches that had disappeared under her regime. Heather's favorite throw blanket reappeared on the living room couch. Family photos returned to the mantel. The inner garden had fresh flowers planted, nothing elaborate, just simple blooms that added color to the space where three boys had laughed for the first time in months. Emily arrived an hour after they got home, carrying a box from the bakery and her grandmother's recipe notebook. Jonathan met her at the front door, not the service entrance this time, and for a moment they just looked at each other. Two people who'd been strangers a month ago, now connected by the most unlikely of circumstances. "They've been asking for you every 10 minutes, Jonathan said, stepping aside to let her in. "Fair warning, they're a little wound up. The doctor said it's normal, their system's adjusting to not being sedated all the time. But it means lots of energy." "Good," Emily said. "Kids should have energy." She found them in the playroom, the same room where she'd stolen the SD card that changed everything. But it looked different now. The toys weren't arranged in perfect rows anymore. They were scattered, actually being played with. The boys had built some kind of elaborate fort out of couch cushions and blankets, and they were in the middle of defending it from imaginary invaders. Emily Ryan spotted her first and came running, nearly tripping over a stuffed elephant. "Did you bring the cookies? I brought something better." Emily set down the box and opened it. "Ingredients to make cookies, your mom's recipe." All three boys went quiet. It was Ethan who finally spoke. "Mom's recipe." Emily pulled out the notebook, opening it to a page marked with a faded ribbon. "Honey oatmeal cookies." See, her handwriting. She wrote a note here that says, "Perfect for rainy days and brave hearts." Alex came closer, studying the page with serious eyes. Can we really make them if your dad says the kitchen is open? Kitchen's definitely open, Jonathan said from the doorway. He'd been watching, Emily realized, taking in the scene like he was memorizing it. They took over the kitchen like a small, chaotic storm. Emily measured while the boys cracked eggshells included, which meant fishing them out with spoons. Ethan stirred the dough so enthusiastically that flour ended up in everyone's hair. Ryan and Alex competed to see who could make the biggest cookie, resulting in 2 massive misshaped lumps that barely fit on the baking sheet. Jonathan hovered at first, uncertain of his role. Emily handed him a spatula. We need someone on official cookie flipping duty. I can do that. He took the spatula like she'd handed him a lifeline. The kitchen filled with the smell of honey and cinnamon. The boys talked over each other, voices overlapping in a way that would have been overwhelming if it wasn't so perfect. They told Emily about the hospital. The doctor let us listen to our hearts with the listening thing. About coming home, our rooms looked the same but different. About everything and nothing at all when the cookies came out of the ovens, lightly burned on the edges. Perfect in their imperfection. Alex held one up like a trophy. Mom would like these. She would, Jonathan agreed, his voice thick. She'd love them. They ate warm cookies at the kitchen table, chocolate chips melting and making a mess no one cared about cleaning up. Emily watched Jonathan with his sons, really present with them for the first time since she'd known them. He asked about their fort design, laughed when Ryan demonstrated his cookie dunking technique, which resulted in half the cookie falling into the milk. Let Ethan tell a rambling story about a dream involving dragons and race cars that made no logical sense, but didn't need to. This was what healing looked like. Emily thought, not dramatic or neat, just small moments stacked together, building something new from what had been broken after the boys went upstairs to add to their fort. Jonathan and Emily sat in the living room. The sun was setting, casting long shadows through the windows for a while. Neither spoke. Then Jonathan broke the silence. The DA called this morning. Margaret's lawyer is trying to negotiate a plea deal. Will you accept it? I don't know. Jonathan stared at his hands. Part of me wants her to face a trial, to have everything she did exposed publicly. But another part, he looked toward the stairs, where the boys' voices echoed faintly. Another part just wants to move forward. Dragging this out means dragging them through it too. What do the lawyers recommend? They say the evidence is strong enough that she'd likely plead guilty regardless. The video footage alone is damning. Add in the financial records, Dr. Westbrook's testimony, the boys' medical results. She doesn't have much room to maneuver. Emily nodded slowly. And after, what happens to you guys? Therapy, lots of it. For them and for me. Jonathan smiled wryly. Turns out I need to deal with my grief instead of just drowning in it. Novel concept. He paused. The therapist asked if there were any positive influences in the boys' lives right now. People who make them feel safe and happy. What did you say? I told her about a waitress who played race cars with bottle caps. Jonathan met Emily's eyes. She'd like to meet you. If you're willing, the therapist thinks it would help the boys to have consistency with people they trust. Emily's heart squeezed. I'm not a therapist or a nanny, or I know what you're not. I'm asking about what you are. Jonathan leaned forward. You're someone who saw my children when everyone else saw problems to be managed. You're someone who risked everything, your job, your reputation, your safety, because you believe they deserve better. That's not nothing, Emily, that's everything. I just did what anyone would do. No. Jonathan's voice was firm. Most people walked past this house every day and never looked twice. Miguel saw something was wrong, but didn't know how to fix it. I lived here and was too blind with grief to see what was right in front of me. You're the only one who actually did something. Emily felt tears building. I couldn't let it continue. Those drawings, God, Jonathan, they were screaming for help and no one was listening. I'm listening now. He reached across the space between them and took her hand. Not romantic, not yet, but grateful, connected. I'm asking you to be part of their recovery, part of their lives, not as an employee, as a friend, as family. If you want that, I want that, Emily whispered. More than anything, good. Jonathan squeezed her hand once before letting go. Because they need you. And honestly, so do I, before Emily could respond. Alex appeared at the bottom of the stairs, clutching his blue ribbon. Emily, can you come see our fort? We made it bigger. Absolutely, Emily stood. Grateful for the interruption before her emotions overwhelmed her completely, she followed Alex upstairs. But glanced back once. Jonathan stood in the living room, framed by the dying sunlight, and for the first time since she'd met him, He looked like a man who believed tomorrow might actually be better than today. That night, after Emily went home, Jonathan sat in his study with a photo of Heather. The same photo he'd been avoiding for months because looking at it hurt too much. "I almost lost them," he told her picture. "I almost let someone take away everything that made them ours. But there was this woman, a waitress of all things, who wouldn't let that happen, who fought for our boys when I was too broken to fight myself." The photo didn't answer, but Jonathan felt something shift in his chest, not the crushing weight of grief, but something lighter. Permission, maybe, to keep living, to let new people in, to trust that joy and memory could coexist without betraying what had been lost. "I think you'd like her," he said softly. "She makes them laugh. Really laugh the way you used to in the playroom upstairs." 3 boys slept in their cushion fort, bellies full of imperfect cookies, dreams unfogged for the first time in months, and in the garden outside. Fresh flowers bloomed where nothing had grown since spring. The house was learning to breathe again. Margaret Lane's guilty plea came 6 weeks later, on a gray November morning that felt appropriate for the occasion. Emily sat in the courtroom gallery next to Miguel, both of them there not because they had to be, but because they needed to see it end. Jonathan had asked if she wanted to come. Giving her the choice, "You don't owe her your presence," he'd said. "But if you need to witness this chapter closing, I understand she needed to witness it." Margaret stood before the judge in a navy suit, her composure intact but her power completely gone. No more immaculate bun, no more commanding presence. Just a woman who'd built an empire on manipulation and was watching it crumble. The defendant pleads guilty to 3 counts of child endangerment, 5 counts of embezzlement, and 2 counts of fraud, her attorney said. The words hung in the air, heavy and final. The judge's sentence was measured but firm. 4 years in prison, restitution of all embezzled funds, and a permanent prohibition from working with children or vulnerable populations. Margaret's face didn't change, but Emily saw her hands tighten on the table in front of her. "Do you have anything to say?" the judge asked. Margaret was silent for a long moment. Then quietly, "I thought I was helping, bringing order to chaos. I was wrong. It wasn't an apology. Not really. But it was the closest thing to accountability she'd offer," as they led her away. Margaret's eyes swept the courtroom and landed on Emily. For just a second, their gazes locked. Emily expected anger, maybe hatred, but what she saw was something else entirely: resignation. The look of someone who'd played a game and lost and knew it. Emily didn't look away first. Margaret did, outside the courthouse. Jonathan was waiting by his car. The boys were with their therapist, Dr. Chun had suggested they not attend the hearing. That closure would come in healthier ways than watching their former caretaker be sentenced. "How are you?" Jonathan asked Emily, relieved, sad. "I don't know." Emily wrapped her jacket tighter against the cold. "Is it wrong that I feel sorry for her? Even after everything, I think it means you're human." Jonathan opened the car door for her. "Come on. I have something to show you." They drove back to the mansion in comfortable silence. Over the past weeks, Emily had become a regular presence there, not as staff, but as what Jonathan had called her, family. She helped with homework, played elaborate games involving the cushion fort, and taught the boys her grandmother's recipes. She'd even started keeping a few of her things in one of the guest rooms, for the nights when it got late and going home felt like too much distance. The romance between her and Jonathan had grown slowly, carefully, like a plant given proper space to root. Conversations that lasted past midnight. Hands brushing while cleaning up after dinner. A kiss, finally. 3 weeks ago in the kitchen while the boys slept upstairs, tentative and sweet and full of promise. They were building something real, not rushed, not desperate, just honest. Jonathan pulled into the driveway and led Emily not to the main house, but to the garden, the same space where this had all started, with bottle caps and laughter and a blue ribbon. The boys were there, along with Dr. Chun and Miguel. A small table had been set up with art supplies, and spread across it were dozens of new drawings. "We've been working on something in therapy, Doctor," Chun explained. "The boys wanted to show you." Ryan stepped forward, holding up a picture. "This is the before drawing." It showed 3 stick figures with frowning faces, surrounded by purple clouds. Dark and heavy, Ethan came next. "This is the during drawing." 3 figures again. But this time there was a tiny spot of light in the corner. Woman with a ponytail holding a blue ribbon. And Alex finished. "This is the after drawing." 3 boys with huge smiles, holding hands with 2 adults, One tall man, one woman with curly hair. The sun was bright yellow, taking up half the page. At the bottom, in careful letters, "Our new family." Emily's vision blurred. She knelt down to their level. "This is beautiful. All of it, Doctor. Chun says we get to decide what our story is now," Ryan said seriously. "The bad stuff happened. But we're not just the bad stuff, we're the after," Ethan added. "And you're in the after," Alex said, pointing to the curly-haired figure. "Because you helped make it happen." Emily pulled all three boys into a hug, not caring that she was crying or that Dr. Chun was taking notes or that Miguel was suspiciously wiping his eyes. "You guys did the hard part. You survived. You asked for help. You were so brave. You were brave too," Ryan said into her shoulder. "Dad told us. You fought for us even when nobody believed you." "Of course I did. You're worth fighting for." When she finally let them go, Jonathan was there with his hand extended. "There's one more thing." He led her to a corner of the garden where a small stone bench had been installed, engraved on a brass plaque in memory of Heather Harrison, who taught us that love is louder than silence and joy is stronger than grief. And in gratitude to Emily Walker, who reminded us how to laugh, Emily couldn't speak, could barely breathe. "The boys designed it with Dr. Chun," Jonathan said quietly. "They wanted to honor their mom and thank you at the same time. Two people who gave them what they needed most, then and now." "I don't deserve this," Emily whispered. "Yes, you do." Jonathan's hand found hers. "You gave us our lives back. Let us say thank you." That evening they had dinner together, all of them, not a formal affair. Just pasta and salad, and the slightly burned garlic bread the boys insisted on making themselves. They ate at the kitchen table instead of the dining room, because it felt cozier that way. Ryan announced he wanted to try soccer in the spring. Ethan said he'd been writing stories and maybe wanted to read one out loud sometime. Alex asked if they could get a dog, and when Jonathan said maybe, launched into an elaborate argument for why golden retrievers were the best breed. Normal, chaotic, perfect. After dinner, they moved to the living room. Emily brought out her grandmother's notebook, and the boys chose a new recipe to try for the weekend lemon bars, because Alex liked sour things. Jonathan put on music, something soft and instrumental, and they just existed together. No agenda, no schedule, just being at one point. Ethan came over and leaned against Emily's shoulder. "Can I ask you something always? Are you going to stay, like really stay?" Emily looked at Jonathan, who was helping Ryan and Alex build a card tower. He glanced up, and the look in his eyes was an answer to a question she hadn't dared to ask yet. "Yeah," Emily said, pulling Ethan closer. "I'm going to really stay." "Good." Ethan settled in more comfortably. "Because we kind of need you. I kind of need you guys too." And it was true. This family, cobbled together from grief and courage and bottle cap races, had become hers. Not because of blood or obligation, but because of choice. Because they'd all decided that broken things could be mended and that new beginnings didn't erase old love. They honored it. Later, after the boys were in bed, Emily and Jonathan sat on the back porch. The November air was cold, but neither of them wanted to go inside yet. "I got a call from the foundation board," Jonathan said. "They want to restructure, put new safeguards in place to prevent what Margaret did from ever happening again. And they want to expand the mission ad programs for children dealing with grief and trauma." "That sounds perfect." They asked if you'd consider joining the board. As a voting member, Jonathan smiled at her shocked expression. "I told them I'd ask. You don't have to say yes, but your perspective, what you saw, what you fought for, it matters. It could help a lot of kids." Emily thought about it, about using her experience, her voice, to make sure other children didn't fall through the cracks the way Ryan, Ethan, and Alex almost had. "I'll think about it," she said. "Seriously, think about it. That's all I ask." Jonathan reached for her hand. "Thank you for everything, for not giving up, for staying, for becoming part of this messy, healing, wonderful thing we're building." Emily laced her fingers through his. "Thank you for letting me in, for trusting me, for being brave enough to see the truth, even when it hurt." They sat there until the stars came out. Two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way, holding on to something that felt like home. Spring came to the Harrison mansion like a promise kept. The garden that had been barren for so long exploded with color tulips and daffodils. Cherry blossoms on the trees Miguel had carefully pruned through the winter. The inner courtyard, once a monument to grief, had transformed into something alive and wild and beautiful. It was a Sunday morning in late April when Emily woke up in what had officially become her room. Not the guest room anymore, her room. Her clothes in the closet, her grandmother's recipe notebook on the nightstand. Her life woven into the fabric of this house and this family in ways that felt permanent and right. She found Jonathan in the kitchen, already dressed, making coffee with the careful precision of someone who'd recently learned that not all coffee had to come from a machine. He looked up when she entered, and his smile was the easy kind that came from months of practice. Morning, he handed her a mug. The boys are already outside. They've been up since 6, apparently. Too excited. It's kite day, Emily said. Taking a sip. Of course they're excited. Today marked 1 year since that afternoon in the garden. 1 year since 3 boys had laughed for the first time in months, since Emily had decided that courage meant acting even when you were terrified. Since everything had changed, they'd talked about how to commemorate it. The boys, Dr. Chun, Jonathan, and Emily, and landed on something simple. Kites, and a picnic, and cake. But not just any cake, the one from Heather's notebook. The recipe Emily had found months ago, but they'd never made. The one titled in Heather's handwriting, Cake of New Beginnings. I thought we could make it together, Emily said. All of us, before the kites. Jonathan set down his coffee. She'd like that. Heather, she'd like that we're not just remembering the hard parts anymore. We're not forgetting them either, Emily said gently. We're just making room for the good parts, too. Yeah. Jonathan pulled her close, kissing the top of her head. We are. By 8 a.m., the kitchen was controlled chaos. Ryan read ingredients from the notebook, his reading much stronger now than it had been a year ago. Ethan measured flour and sugar, only spilling a little. Alex cracked eggs, still getting shells in the bowl sometimes, but getting better. Jonathan worked the mixer while Emily supervised, offering guidance and catching disasters before they happened. Beat sugar with eggs until the air enters, Ryan read. What does that mean? It means you mix, and it gets fluffy, Emily explained. Like you're putting tiny bubbles of happiness into the batter. That's a weird recipe instruction, Ethan said. Your mom was poetic, Jonathan said softly. She saw magic in ordinary things. They worked together, each person contributing something essential. The kitchen smelled like vanilla and butter and possibility. The boys argued good-naturedly about whose turn it was to stir, and Jonathan told stories about Heather that made them laugh instead of cry, like the time she'd tried to make a birthday cake and forgot the sugar entirely. Or when she'd convinced 3-year-old triplets that vegetables were superhero food. When the cake went into the oven, they cleaned up together. Flour ended up everywhere, in hair, on noses, dusting the floor like snow. Emily took a picture of all 4 of them, covered in baking ingredients. Grinning like fools. This is going in the family album, she declared. We have a family album, Alex asked. We do now, outside. The day was perfect. Cotton ball clouds dotted a blue sky made for flying things. Miguel had helped the boys prepare 3 kites, 1 for each of them, in the colors they'd chosen. Red for Ryan, blue for Ethan, green for Alex. But there were 2 more kites laid out on the grass. A purple one with silver ribbons, and a yellow one with white streamers. The purple one is for Mom, Ryan explained. Suddenly shy, Dr. Chun said it was okay to include her. That she's still part of our family even though she's gone. More than okay, Jonathan said. His voice thick. It's perfect. And the yellow one? Emily asked. The boys exchanged looks, then Alex spoke up. That one's for you. Because you're family now too. Really family. Emily's eyes burned. Really family, she repeated. I like the sound of that. They spent the next hour launching kites, running across the grass, laughing when strings got tangled, and cheering when they soared high. Jonathan flew Heather's purple kite with reverence and joy, letting it dance with the wind like she was up there somewhere, still part of their story. Emily flew her yellow one alongside the boys, all 5 kites eventually finding their rhythm together, separate but connected. Each one held by someone who mattered. Look, Ethan shouted, pointing up. They're flying in a pattern, and they whirred. Blue, green, purple, and yellow, moving together like a constellation, like a family. Miguel appeared with a picnic basket, and they ate lunch on blankets spread across the grass. Sandwiches and fruit and lemonade that was too sweet, but nobody cared. The boys told stories about things they wanted to do this summer, swimming lessons, maybe camp, definitely getting that golden retriever they'd been lobbying for. We could name him Captain, Ryan suggested. All Rocket, Ethan countered. Or Pancake, Alex said, and everyone laughed because of course Alex would suggest Pancake. When the cake was cool enough, Emily brought it outside on Heather's good serving platter, the one Jonathan said she'd only use for special occasions. It was imperfect, slightly lopsided, with frosting that didn't quite cover all the edges. Beautiful in its imperfection. Should we say something? Jonathan asked. Before we cut it, Ryan nodded. I'll go first. He stood up, suddenly serious. I'm thankful that we're happy again, and that Emily found us. I'm thankful for second chances, Ethan said. And that Dad smiles now. Alex touched the blue ribbon he still carried everywhere, his talisman. His reminder, I'm thankful we remembered how to laugh. And that Mom would be proud of us. Jonathan's turn, I'm thankful for courage. The kind that looks like a waitress playing bottle cap races with 3 sad kids. And for the reminder that love doesn't end, it just grows to include more people. All eyes turned to Emily. She looked at these 4 people, 3 boys who'd been voiceless and a man who'd been drowning, and felt overwhelming. Gratitude for the day she'd said yes to just a minute in a garden. It's full. I'm thankful, she said slowly, that I was in the right place at the right time. That I listened when 3 kids asked for help in the only way they could. And that you let a stranger become family, and you were never really a stranger, Jonathan said. You were just family we hadn't met yet. They cut the cake, each person getting a piece of Heather's recipe. Of this new beginning they'd baked together. It tasted like honey and hope and home. Later, as the sun started to set, they lay on the grass and watched the kites still flying. Alex pointed to Emily's pendant, the one that had started everything. Courage saved us, he said. Just like I knew it would. You all saved yourselves, Emily corrected gently. I just helped a lot, Ryan said. You helped a lot. Emily looked at Jonathan, who was looking at her with an expression that said everything words couldn't. Love and gratitude and promise and future, all wrapped up in a single glance. Yeah, she agreed softly. Maybe a lot. As darkness fell, they brought the kites down one by one. The boys ran inside to wash up, their laughter echoing through the house that had learned to breathe again. Jonathan and Emily stayed outside a moment longer, his arm around her shoulders, her head against his chest. You know what Heather wrote at the bottom of that cake recipe? Jonathan asked. What make this when you need to remember that endings can become beginnings, and that the best things often come from the sweetest breaking? He paused. I think she knew somehow that after her, there would be an after, and that it would be okay. More than okay, Emily whispered, in the garden where almost nothing had bloomed since Heather's death. Flowers now grew wild and free, in the house where silence had been enforced like law. Laughter filled every room and in the hearts of 3 boys who'd almost been lost. Joy had taken root again, not erasing the past, but honoring it by choosing to keep living. The message Heather had left, trust the laughter, had finally found its echo. Not as forgetting, but as healing. Not as replacement, but as expansion, love, making room for more love, a family learning that broken things, when mended with care and courage, become stronger in the places they once cracked, in a beginning that tasted like honey cake and felt like coming home.